Hey there, I'm Peter Lipscomb in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Thank you for joining me and checking out this video segment as we celebrate International Dark Sky Week 2020. Whether you nurture a lifelong fascination or just recently developed a passion for the beauty of an increasingly rare and naturally dark night sky, we all share one big sky and the natural and cultural heritage that can be found in the skies of our ancestors. As a natural resource, the night sky is the most ancient of natural beauties. How ancient? Well, words like ancient get tossed around to describe the age of things, and as is often the case with overused adjectives, their true meaning gets diluted and they devolve into hyperbole. Hey, how about that supermoon? So, what exactly do I mean when I say ancient? Well, the night sky was visible long before we evolved into the upright bipedal form we know today. It dates back to a time before our ancestors left their tree homes and started using crude tools. Even earlier than that, as the land masses of Earth were still separating from one giant supercontinent and diverse life forms were just gaining a toehold. When the side of Earth we're on now was facing away from the sun, those glittery stars and lovely things were already out there. So, billions of years. That's what I mean when I say the most ancient of all natural beauties. As a cultural resource, the night sky has informed and inspired our kind for all the thousands of years of human history. So, it's little wonder then that every culture around the world shares stories about the night sky. Some stories explain how things came to be, while others serve as epics of heroism or cautionary tales. Oh, don't do what she did. Look what happened to her. Today, our modern conveniences help us deal with the challenges of the natural environment. But our ancestors had few of these things. The level of connection to the natural world they shared goes beyond anything common today. Now, for some, night is just what happens when the sun goes down. Oh, let's go stream the latest binge-worthy show. But people long ago couldn't be so casual. If they weren't paying attention, whack, they were gone. Our ancestors noticed recurring patterns of movement, cycles of celestial objects, both daytime and nighttime. And from their observations, they developed techniques and strategies to ensure survival. The skies of our ancestors have influenced us in many ways. Let's dive into some examples. The cultural influence of the night sky can be heard in music, seen in the visual arts, found in the alignment of ancient temples and buildings, and read about in literature. It's even in nursery rhymes. It's everywhere. The Pleiades star cluster is a notable example. It spans time and cultures. Alfred Lord Tennyson, in his poem Locksley Hall, wrote, "Many a night I saw the Pleiades rising through a mellow shade, glitter like a swarm of fireflies tangled in a silver braid." Farmers in South America and the North American Southwest used observations of the Pleiades to plan and manage their planting and farming. Potato farmers living on the slopes of the Andes in Bolivia and Peru observed the Pleiades to determine if they should delay planting. If the Pleiades appeared hazy and dim when seen around the festival of San Juan, June 24th, it foretold a drier growing season between October and May, so they held off planting to avoid crop damage. Ancestors of the Zuni Nation in New Mexico called the Pleiades the seed stars. They used movement of the cluster across the sky to know when to plant and avoid a late frost. As the Pleiades moves steadily westward following winter solstice, they learned to wait before they planted. And when it was no longer visible above the horizon after twilight, warmer nights were ahead and planting could begin. Similar practice was shared among ancestors of the Navajo or Diné people. Their name for the cluster is Diyehe. Don't let Diyehe see you plant, is their old saying. You probably know how to find the North Star using the Big Dipper as a guide. Explorers around the world found their way across uncharted land and water using celestial navigation. Galileo first proposed that the moons of Jupiter could be used as a tool to determine longitude long before John Harrison perfected a seafaring chronograph. Until that time, the Jupiter moon technique was limited to land travelers only. By timing the emergence or occultation of moons as they disappeared or reappeared from behind the planet Jupiter, one could compare the observed timing to standard timing for Greenwich Mean Time, and by converting the difference in minutes to degrees, a rough estimate of longitude was calculated. Captain James Cook used this method during his voyages to help map the islands he visited in the South Pacific. Even Apollo moon missions used celestial navigation to get to the moon. Because of the limited processing power of their onboard navigation and guidance systems, the Apollo astronauts used a sextant with reticle to compare their observed location of stars to the computed ones obtained from mission control. And by comparing the difference in angular measure from the two sources, they could make course corrections. This image shows Jim Lovell, commander of Apollo 13, checking the sextant during the successful failure mission in April 1970, 50 years ago. The moon. So far, the only other celestial body in the solar system we have physically visited. Ancient peoples followed the moon cycle carefully, and religious calendars around the world were developed around moon patterns. The Chinese, Hindi, Islamic, Thai, Vietnamese, and Christian calendars, to name a few. Our word month comes from the moon. The month. The original meaning of blue moon has ties to the Christian liturgical calendar. With normally 3 full moons each quarter, a fourth would sometimes occur. The fourth moon was called blue moon and was not counted as part of the orderly cycle. Our modern use of the term blue moon now refers to the second full moon in a given month. Today, our studies of the night sky are supported by high-tech installations on remote mountaintops, but it was not always this way. Atop the Fajada Butte in Chaco Canyon in northwestern New Mexico is an ancient site that may have been used as a kind of a shrine. The famous Sundagger site has been documented to track solstice and equinox dates of the sun, as illustrated to the right. Other locations in the canyon show careful alignments to the cardinal directions, as demonstrated by the construction of the great houses, like Pueblo Bonito. Many of the great houses and outlier structures throughout the canyon show alignments to not just cardinal directions and the annual solar cycle, but also to the major and minor standstill points of the nearly 19-year lunar cycle. The effort undertaken to create this complex of structures involved many people over generations to complete. One of the most compelling sites in Chaco is the Supernovae Pictograph. Some say it records a supernova event from July 4th, 1054. We know such an event occurred because it was documented by Chinese and Japanese astronomers. When I visited the site some years ago, I could see that whatever the purpose of the panel, it was placed in a location that was meant to avoid exposure to the elements. Almost 20 feet high, on the underside of a rock overhang along the south wall of the canyon is where the markings are found. The direction I'm facing is toward the northeast. If I were here almost 1,000 years ago, when the supernova first became visible in the pre-dawn sky, I would have been looking the right direction. Other notable sites in the southwest include the star ceilings of the Four Corners region at places like Canyon de Chelly. What was their purpose? A Navajo guide to the canyon suggested a possible and very logical explanation. Just as the stars keep the sky up, the star ceilings keep the rock from falling. Star ceilings don't represent actual constellations and patterns, but are more symbolic and ceremonial in nature. While ancestors of plebeian cultures followed major and minor standstill movements of the moon and sun, Navajo cosmology developed to encompass the entire night sky. Tracking the seasons was based on the changing appearance of the sky overall. Myths, ceremonial practice, and ritual are based upon their own set of star patterns and the spirits and characters found within. In sub-Saharan Africa, a Neolithic stone site on the Nabta Playa is believed to have been used by cattle herders to know when to bring their animals to graze the fresh grasses during monsoon season. The Namibian desert is dry today, but thousands of years ago, it was a wetter place. The large stone in the image to the left points to the summer solstice position of the sun. The later part of June is when the monsoon rains would arrive. Another example of techniques that our ancestors used to ensure their survival. In Mexico and Central America, Mayan sites demonstrate a sophisticated knowledge of celestial patterns. At Chichen Itza, an observatory called El Caracol, meaning the snail, has a spiral stairway that winds past small slits in its walls to observe different celestial phenomena. A major design feature of this structure was centered on the planet Venus as it moved through its 584-day cycle. 5 of those cycles equal 8 Earth years. So Mayan astronomers worked out it would take that much time for Venus to shift from its northernmost to its southernmost positions along the horizon. Another amazing Mayan structure at Chichen Itza is El Castillo. During the equinox dates, shadows cast by the pyramid corners are cast against the stairway balustrade, creating a serpent's body. The next time you find yourself out under a star-filled night sky, remember our ancestors, the careful attention they paid to the natural world and the movement of celestial objects. Through those observations, they developed techniques to ensure their survival. Think about that for a minute. Without their success, few of us would even be here. Thanks to the IDA for inviting me to present during International Dark Sky Week, and thank you for joining me as we explored the sky of our ancestors. Remember, practice safe and sensible lighting techniques. Don't cast light above a horizontal plane. Keep it down on the ground where it's useful. Match the light to the need and only light as much as needed. And turn it off when you're done. I mean, really, who amongst us can waste money on electricity bills these days? You can save money, conserve natural resources, and be rewarded by a view of the sky of our ancestors. That is a winning combination. Get active with night sky preservation in any way you can and help protect and preserve the aesthetic, cultural, and scientific value of the night sky for generations to come.